He said, that morning, Nigerians awoke to the now familiar tune of martial music. This coup d'etat, however, was unlike any before. Ojudu continues in his book. On Radio Nigeria's national network, the plotters announced the overthrow of General Ibrahim Babangida's regime and declared the dismembering of Nigeria, excising 5 states to form a new country. He says in the African Concord newsroom, he was working for the African Concord then. That was in 1990. He says in the African Concord newsroom, we brainstormed the best angle to report this earth-shaking story. The only useful details we could gather about Orkar were his Benue State origin and his last posting at the army base in Shaki. As an assistant editor, and with my friend and colleague, Bayo Onanuga, that is the same Bayo Onanuga, Tinubu's spokesman. Bayo Onanuga at the time was the editor of the African Concord, while Babafemi Ojudu was the assistant editor. So he said, along with Bayo Onanuga, we decided to send a reporter to Makurdi to dig up Orkar's background. Onanuga, reporter Sheyeke Inde, and I embarked on a mission to Shaki to uncover more about Orkar and, if possible, obtain his photograph. So he has just told the story of how they obtained the photograph. You can read more of his story. J. Fard says most analysis focus on the coup's failure or its ethnic undertones. Orkar was a minority from the Tiv ethnic group and called for the expulsion of certain northern states from Nigeria, while soldiers at home faced poor pay, decaying barracks, and inadequate equipment. This resentment was compounded by Babangida's austerity measures under IMF, World Bank structural adjustment programs, which squeezed military budgets. J. Fad says the untold angle, Orkar and his co-conspirators were reportedly frustrated that Nigeria was bankrolling liberation struggles like the ANC in South Africa and SWAPO in Namibia. You see, one book that will also tutor you well on this subject is Soldiers of Fortune. Now, there's a new print of this book. There's a new print of this book, Soldiers of Fortune. Nigerian politics from Buhari to Babangida, 1983 to 1993. It's a book you should have. If there's one book you should have in your house, it is this book, Soldiers of Fortune. You know, I keep mentioning it. Nigerian politics from Buhari to Babangida. You cannot tell me you are interested in political power, yet you don't like history. One of the bane of Nigerian development is that most of those who govern us don't understand history. They don't read. They don't even know. I've experimented this. I've engaged in deep discourse with some top members of the political leadership. They lack knowledge of Nigeria's history. You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked that they don't know. So sometimes I ask them, so did you prepare for leadership? It is clear there is no preparation. That is why sometimes you look at the Chinese system. They don't just throw you up. They prepare you for leadership. We must have a system that prepares people for leadership. Our education system is so weak, it doesn't prepare the mind for good leadership. So what you see, people stumble into leadership, and they don't know what to do with it. And that is the chaos we see in Nigeria. People who are looting money they don't need because they don't understand the essence of leadership. That if you create enabling leadership, everybody will be richer than we are now. Even those who are looting will be richer. Because you now create a system that is productive. And that is a system we must create. Those who plotted the Orkar coup wanted such a system. But I will also raise some questions. If they had succeeded, what next? What next? So read this book, Soldiers of Fortune, by Max Sulin. Max told the story in chapter 9. It is entitled The Niger Delta Coup. That's what he entitled it. The Niger Delta Coup. You know what these guys did? They went to recruit former servicemen. They didn't use, there was no GOC. In fact, they were tough. I don't know how they did it. Tulufari has explained what happened, how they did it. And Great Ogburu cannot be taken out. He he was a fishing magnate. He was a millionaire. He had a fishing company in Lagos, a big compound. That was where they gathered. Some of them gathered. They bought arms. They didn't want the military to know, so they were not targeting the military armory really. They bought their own arms. And they went to recruit former servicemen. They gave them training. They took their time. And they almost got Babaginda, just that they wanted to catch him alive. If they had wanted to kill him, they would have killed him. According to the guys who were closer to him, they wanted to catch him. They could have blown him up because they killed his ADC. And once you take down the ADC, that means you are close to your target. It was a coup that shook the military. Abacha rose to the task to defend the government of the day. If you read Max Sulin's book, he has subtitles, Dodan Barracks, Late Night, Sunday, April 22nd, 1990. He tells a story. He has another subheading, Route Map of a Coup Plot. The book breaks it down. You continue to read, you read and read, then he now comes to April 22nd, 1990. He calls it D-Day. He explains, Dodan Barracks attack led by Lieutenant Echendu. It was Echendu that led the attack on Dodan Barrack, where Babangida was staying. Ikeja Cantonment, who led that attack, it was led by Major Mukoro, Captains Dakolo and Emperor, and Lieutenant Ahere and Obasi. Ojo Cantonment, it was Captain Tolufari that led the attack on Ojo Cantonment. So Tolufari is the author of the book Exploitation and Instability in Nigeria. You know, he escaped. He told the story of how he escaped out of Nigeria. At some point, he was in Lagos for about a week. He was hiding in Lagos for about a week, Tulufari. You know, while the military was looking for him, you know, they rounded up about more than 300 soldiers. I think they executed about 60. Some figures will say 67, some will say 68. The military at some point announced that they executed 40. And the coupists also killed many soldiers that day. The D-Day. Who captured Radio Nigeria Corporation of Nigeria? Lieutenant Emmanuel Okekumatalo captured Radio Nigeria. Remember, we have discussed the Dimka coup. Dimka was in Radio Nigeria too. They always want to capture and make the announcement. Dimka had already made his own announcement, but that also failed, like the Orkar coup. Lieutenant Colonel Inyam was to take the Giwa project and provide reinforcement for the attacking forces at FRCN and Dodan Barracks. They also had 4 arrest squad led by Lieutenant H.A. Ogboru, Mohammed Gohe, Nicholas Ode, and Awokoya Akogun. There was Major Obahon. He was to rupture the communications of the 2nd Mechanized Infantry Division, headquartered at Ibadan, by disrupting their radio communication systems. Maxiolun also have a subheading here entitled Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, headquarters, what happened there that day. I recommend this book to you. It will educate you. There's also the aftermath. We'll look at the aftermath of the coup, if we can.